Back at it again. Another episode of Nou Pale. Welcome back. Thank you for returning and listening to this guy yammer about something that he's very passionate about. Something I hope you're very passionate about because you're here hopefully to try to mimic and do the same thing, right? Which is come back to Haiti, employ, create value, and make a little bit of money while you're at it, right? And so let's talk about it. Today's episode is going to be about electricity. One of the things that folks ask me the most when they hear about what I'm doing and the fact I'm in this sort of tech BPO outsourced sort of area where I'm working with clients from abroad with the team I have here. You know, one of the first questions they ask is, what about electricity? And so we're going to talk about it today because I really do want to have it very clear the realities on the ground and make it very clear of what it takes to overcome those realities, right? And so, yeah, we're not gonna waste too much time. Let's just jump right into it. Electricity is an issue, period, and it's more of an issue depending on where you reside. Now, if you're in Port-au-Prince proper, electricity is, for the most part, you're gonna have it most of the day, right? Upwards from 18 to 22 hours in a good amount of the parts of Port-au-Prince. When I say Port-au-Prince, I'm about the Pétionville, sort of Delma, sort of Route-Fouet, sort of La Boule, sort of Kenskoff, Toujours, whole sort of PV proper, I guess you can say, or PAP proper. Now, once you start heading further out, for example, Cafu has it pretty rough. I think the amount of electricity there is maybe 8 to 12 hours a day. And the further out you go, Matissan, it gets less and less, to sometimes 4 to 6 hours. So I really console that wherever you're going to do business, try to find out what is the electricity situation. I think the best electricity, consistent electricity in the city is Airport Road. That the road along the airport, there's a big focus on ensuring that area has very good electricity because that's sort of where they're trying to make it more of an industrial area. But so doing that, that's all things you have to try to keep in mind as you're trying to locate, right? So when it comes to setting up your EDH, right? I haven't heard a single good story about that process. They're very slow to come and put the counter, an actual meter. Most of the time, I understand you have to pay for the line extension. So if there was no electricity lines in the particular area where you're trying to build, you have to pay for that. Officially, you're supposed to go through EDH, and by the way, EDH is the electricity company of Haiti. I don't think I've mentioned that. And so you have to, the official process to go through them. I know a lot of people who don't, a lot of people who just put up the pylons and work with electricians to, you know, plug it to the grid and just to get started because it takes such a long process. The meter itself, there is a legal fixed price to get that out. I've heard only stories where folks have had to pay somebody who's in there to get the actual meters out. And this is a story I've heard universally. Haven't heard any good story about the electricity company. So, somewhat in their defense, I know of a lot of people in places that are very slow to pay for the electricity, which is a dual-sided problem. You have an operator that is very slow in repairs and setting up new units, and then you have another side. You have a populace, unfortunately, that too often and this is those who can pay, to often go several months without getting around to paying before they pay, which is in itself an issue that both sides need to address. You actually go through the process of, and you finish the process of getting electricity to your unit that wasn't there, all right? And advise already, it's not going to be too clean or easier of a process. You're still going to have an unstable connection to consistent power, right? And so what we have here in Haiti, and this is something that folks living who maybe never really visited Haiti don't really appreciate until they're here and they see it, is a system of batteries saving that power so you can use it when electricity isn't there. So Tesla is having these sort of little wall battery packs, and that's sort of becoming a big thing right now, where folks are using solar panels on their homes, and then saving it for later. We've been in that sort of space for a while here in Haiti, so I'm not saying, I'm not tooting our own horns here, but that's one aspect, I guess you could say, we're certainly more advanced than the States. So the system revolves, and we're going to show you the inverter and the battery, and on top of that, most folks, if they can, they get solar panels, and solar panels offer as additional buffer to ensure that your batteries get charged, and potentially you can even run your entire unit off the solar panels if you have enough, and depending on your output, you can just run that, right? And of course, finally, there is a system of Delco. Depending on the type of business you have, solar panels necessarily aren't consistent and are reliable all the time, because again, you have a cloudy day, and so you have a large grocery store that is connected to it. You're gonna have a problem. And so Delco, which is what we call a generator, is a bread and butter staple of every office that really has a tremendous dependency on electricity, and large amounts of electricity. And the way Delcos work is you put in, it's basically a big engine, and put diesel in it, and it burns and it provides electricity. And the sizes can range. They can range from a very small, about this size, to honestly, I've seen Delcos this size as large as this office, because of the connection, the need for electricity. And as you can imagine, all that, everything I just said, is a cost. There's an added cost of doing business in the country. In addition to a lot of the difficulties of setting your business up, having to work around electricity issues. I can tell you, a big part of my budget setup, was related to ensuring that my electricity needs and demands were met. That's one reason why we're talking about it, right? So this is the set of batteries that we have here at the office. We have 12. The brand of choice in Haiti is Trojan. So something that's absolutely necessary here, no matter what you're doing. 12 might be a little much, given the era that we're in, because the era that we're in does have just usually about at least 22 hours or so actual employees we have. I think we probably could have gotten away with half of this for right now, but I'm certainly a person who I plan for growth, and so down the road demand for electricity that I wanted to sort of get ahead of. But yeah, this is the setup, and so we're gonna go inside and we'll show you the actual inverter box. Come on. So this right here, what we're looking at, is the actual inverter box, right? A very popular brand here is Magnum. For my home, actually, I have another brand that was a little cheaper on Amazon. I had to bring it in, which brings up a very good talking point. You can actually, so long as the inverter is under 50 pounds, actually buy the inverter in the States and bring it in. And I highly advise you to do that. The reason why, I had a 25 kilowatt inverter that provides 24 watts. And I was able to buy that off Amazon for $300 to $400, right? And some accessories brought it up to maybe another $100, right? So let's say $400 to $500, right? the same kilowatts and 24 watts, it was going to cost me, believe it or not, $1,200, right? More than double. When I actually got into the airport, I made the dumb, naive choice to actually, they had this big old suitcase, to tell them it was inverter, and their eyes lit up. The customs guys' eyes lit up. Like, oh, and said, what? It's inverter? Oh no, you have to pay customs tax. It's brand new. Which I've spoken to lawyer friends, and they tell me that I didn't necessarily have to pay because it wasn't something I was going to sell, or something I was going to use, right? So I advise you not to say what you have, and if you do, say it's something's already, if you had said it was already used, or something that you already had owned stateside for a while, you probably could have gotten away with it. But even with paying that tax, they charged me basically another $100 import tax. That ended up made the total cost about what, $600 to $700, half of what it would have been if I had bought that same inverter in Haiti that I bought in the States, right? And so this actually ended up having to buy in Haiti because the amount of batteries I had, I needed something that was going to handle it, and plus one of my connections with the solar panel, I needed something that was going to be able to handle all that, and that was heavy, and it was going to be much heavier than the 50-pound max limit that you're allowed to use for your bags. It's going to cost. These are the counters that you're going to get from E03. These are what I was explaining has quite a bit of difficulty in getting them to come out here and actually put in. A lot of times they prefer, this has three stories where we're at, and so they sort of like just to kind of just put one, which isn't good, because if you have 3 stories, that's usually because you have potentially 3 different residents living in the place, and so for obvious reasons you wouldn't necessarily want someone who's using more electricity having to pay for someone else's higher use. Doesn't make too much sense, but this is how it looks like. It's like ones you see back in the States, but it is certainly a hassle to get these here, and you do have to pay a pretty penny to actually get them to come in and install it, both legally and illegally. So this right here is the solar panels that I have, and as you can see, there's 4 stretched across facing this angle. One of the things that are absolutely necessary are the big locks to secure them, because one of the things about solar panels, really anywhere, particularly here, is that if they're not properly locked, they will be absconded, right? But yeah, this is just one of those final measures to ensure that electricity isn't an issue, because again, you can run these directly rather than E03, save you some money on days that are particularly nice and sunny. But even then, even if it's not, it's always a good backup to have, because there's been stretches where there hasn't been electricity, even though on average it's 20-ish hours or so. But there's been stretches where we've gone even a week without electricity. So again, it's certainly worth the investment anywhere to have one of these, but especially in Haiti, it's something you really want to consider if you open up your own business and look to ensure that you don't have any stoppages because of power. That was the quick tour of what it takes to secure your office in terms of electricity, right? It's not an easy task, as you saw with the batteries and the way you have to navigate to get your EDH counters and the panels, and of course we didn't get a shot of any telco because I just don't necessarily have the need right now, but eventually that may also become very necessary for me. And so let's talk about the actual cost of everything, right? So the batteries that you saw back there were 140 each. So for 12 batteries, that was like around $1,700 right? And then the solar panels, which you saw, were at $240 each. So for 4, you're already pushing $1,000 on that, right? And then for that inverter, which was 2000 watt, 24 volt battery, you were looking at just for that a price point of $1,500. And then not to mention all the little the parts and wires and all the stuff that are just absolutely necessary. And then labor, because you got the electrician to actually do the work. For the solar panels, you got to have a cage done. So for all that, the end damage, right, was a whopping $8,000. Yeah, it's no easy task for a new entrepreneur to have to sort of have that cost as part of their calculations to start a business, but that is something that is absolutely necessary. My goal is to share what it takes, and so for you guys who are coming here to be able to do entrepreneurial work, this is something you're gonna have to do, to put money aside to ensure that you have and you can operate. And so if there's any more questions on electricity that you guys want to know about, let me know. Leave comments underneath, and we can talk about it. We can engage it. Where did I buy everything? I bought them at a combination of a few different places: CK Hardware, Matalek. Yeah, those are really the 2 main places. There's a bunch of little, we call them quincaillas here, which are basically little hardware stores, mini hardware stores. And so you can get a few base parts, there as well. But if you're using the quality assurance is kind of spotty in those areas, so it's sometimes better to go to those sort of more main brand places in the city, even if you pay a little more, just because you can ensure that the quality is correct, right? Other questions you guys may have I didn't address, please leave the comments underneath. We'll talk about it.